Well, here we are. It is Friday, November 1st, 2024. I hope you all had a good time on Halloween last night. We had a lot of stuff going on around here this week. And this video you're going to see is maybe a little shorter than usual, and I'll explain why right now. A few weeks ago, I cracked a tooth. And it became very badly infected by one of my molars, and I had to go to a whole bunch of doctors. And it's a long story, but I'm going to be having some rather extensive oral surgery next week, and bone grafts in my jaw and one thing and another. It really got messed up. And at the same time this was going on, my poor wife had an appendectomy attack, and I had to take her to the hospital 2 nights ago for an emergency surgery. And I'm running around in incredible amounts of discomfort on OxyContin and oxycodone, rather, and all kinds of medications, trying to get her into the hospital, getting surgery done, and dealing with the tooth thing. Anyway, and I went this morning, though, and I want to show you something. Sometimes you go someplace and you feel like you've just met your people. Well, I was at this oral surgeon's office. I'm not going to say who he is because I didn't get them to sign consent forms or anything. But this is the waiting room of this very, very good oral surgeon who was recommended to me. And he is a collector, but not a collector of Asian art. He's a collector of Marvel Comics and DC Comics. And his whole waiting room is laid out like this. And I got in there and I didn't notice it right away. And I started to look around and I said, this guy is something else. This guy, I've never met him before. He was wonderful. We did our consult. He's doing the surgery next week, as I said. But I want to show you his waiting room. One, notice the upholstered chairs. Very comfortable waiting room. This is what a doctor's office should look like. And his staff was wonderful people. And they're all having fun. But these are all comic books along the top row of this place. And I'm going to pan through this office to show you just how he did it. Every room in this place has Marvel this and Marvel that. And the guy, and I said to him, I said, this is, your place is amazing. And he was very quiet about it. He said, yeah, well, we like them, and and that's it. So it's a very personal thing for him, but he's very willing to share it. And when you meet somebody who is as heavy a collector of this and is willing to wear it right out on his sleeve, in a fun way. You've got more doctors should be like this. He was great. But this is the waiting room. This is the waiting room to his office. He's got a TV screen going in the middle here with some sort of Marvel comic, fantasy film on it. Spider-Man posters, spiders down the walls. There's DC logos, Marvel logos, Batman. There's some man waiting and so forth. But you hear the voices and they're laughing. And this is a very serious office. They do a lot of good work here, apparently. And but these are all rare comic books, all along the top wall. And I can only imagine what the guy actually has that he hasn't got on display. But it's quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating. There's the theme of the television show is playing on the screen in the background. Anyway, it was just it was a riot going in here. And I can't say enough about this guy's office. I was absolutely fascinated. There's the Batman thing, and there's the Spider-Man thing. We'll zoom in on that. And these are very collectible posters. These aren't junk posters. These are collector's posters. They're probably worth a lot of money. And there it is. So there it is. Here we are in the North Shore of Boston. But anyway, that's his office. And I'll report back next week after the surgery. But for now, that's all I really have to say on it. I thought it was absolutely great fun. There we go. And on to this week's video. There's a lot going on this week, and there was a couple of good sales, but I want to do a couple of things I want to do a clarification on before I get going too much. I had done a video earlier this week on the Woolley and Wallis sale over in the UK, and I got an email from them from a number of people saying, well, to bid on the Woolley and Wallis sale, you need to put up a $5,000 deposit, cash deposit. And I've heard of this before. I'm aware that they do that over there. And they do it for a really good reason. I know it seems like a crazy inconvenience to you, but I want to tell you something. If they're requiring people to put up $5,000 deposits, it's going to help you as a bidder, as a legitimate bidder, in a great way. It's a great benefit. It's a slight inconvenience to have to put up a deposit. Now, this deposit is only required for Chinese works of art, not for Japanese, not for Korean. All right? Because a couple of you, one of you that emailed me, I know you only buy Japanese, and you were wondering why. You're exempt from this. And I emailed them back and said, you should clarify that on your website because it's not at all clear. And I mentioned that I had heard from a couple of Japanese collectors who said, well, why do I have to put a $5,000 deposit? Well, the reason you have to put up a $5,000 deposit, I'll just say it. There's a huge number of Chinese bidders in mainland China who are deadbeats and stiffs that never pay their damn bills. That's the reason. They are crooks. And they register, they run up the auctions, and then they try to resell the piece before they have to pay for it. And if they can't resell it, they don't pay for it. They walk away from the transaction. It's the same phenomenon that's happened on eBay for years and years and years. People will say, well, why do they bid on things if they're not going to pay for them? Well, they bid on them and not pay for them because they can't sell them. They overpaid, or one of their friends said, oh, you don't want to buy that, or something like that, because they're gamblers. They're degenerate gamblers in many ways in China. That's what they love to gamble. And they'll throw a bid on something, and then they'll go around and farm it around the market saying, I just got a hold of this, you want to buy it, and they'll offer it for a price, and hopefully they get a profit out of it. If they get a profit offered to them, then they'll pay for it and get it shipped. And they often say, well, ship it quickly, please. Yeah, because they've got to forward it to the person they've just sold it to on WeChat or some other app over there. And Woolley and Wallis has taken the position that they don't want people doing that, obviously, because it hurts them. You run up a piece to $5,000 or $10,000, then you don't have a customer for it. You can't make a profit on it because most of them in China don't know what they're doing. Most Chinese dealers or people trying to be dealers in China lose their shirts every day. They're terrible dealers. There's a few good ones, of course, on the Hollywood Road, but the average Chinese porcelain dealer doesn't have no idea what he's doing. He's basing all of his purchases on photographs and what the guy sitting next to him at the next computer terminal is telling him to buy, and it's just a joke. So Woolley and Wallis said that we don't want these people in our equation and our buyers mix. So in order to buy Chinese stuff, you have to put up a deposit. So be willing to put up the deposit. It's $5,000. Everything in the sale is going to go into those ranges anyway, so just do it. They refund the money immediately. They don't charge you anything for it. But it's a way of protecting you. In other words, not doing it to inconvenience you. They're doing it to protect you so you're not bidding against shill bidders who aren't serious people. So you stand a much better chance of getting a good buy this way than you do if they let everybody in. All right, and this is an ongoing problem, and they sent me back a very nice letter explaining what their position on it is, and I completely agree with them. All right, $5,000 deposit is not a lot of money. I know it seems like a lot, but when you're looking at pieces and you're looking at numbers that you're registering to bid on maybe 5 or 6 lots that could total $8,000 or $10,000, putting up a little money first as insurance to keep out the phonies and the non-bidders, I think is a great idea. I think it's a great idea. Japanese bidders don't do it. Typically, Korean buyers don't do it. It's only the Chinese guys because they're crooks. A lot of them are crooks. We all know that. I'm just going to say it. It's not the Chinese people are crooks, but people from China that deal in Chinese art, big chunk of them are crooks and manipulators. And they're unserious people, and they have no idea what they're bidding on most of the time. Very little, very little. They're remarkably uninformed. All right, you get better information from collectors and dealers in the West than you will ever from most Chinese dealers. There's William Schack, of course, and all the good ones on Hollywood Road. They're fantastic people, but they are a microcosm compared to the ones who are not, the hustlers in Shanghai and so forth. So, at any rate, that's the reason for the deposit. All right. So keep that in mind. Now, one of the sales I also wanted to talk about this week that's coming up, and it's overall in the UK also, is Plakas. Plakas has been there for a long time, or Plakas. They're nice people. I've corresponded with them back and forth. As a matter of fact, last week about their Chinese sale that's coming up. They had an Islamic sale the other day that did okay, and they have this, and they sell some good things. And I'm going to go through some of the lots that are the Plakas sale. These will all be added onto the global pages by tomorrow morning. Some of them are on there right now. The sale is on November 8th, so you have a week to register. There's some good-looking lots in this sale, and they're very nice people. They seem very, very approachable. They're responsive to emails. So after you see this, get in touch with them if you see something you like, and so forth. They're on Live Auctioneers and on Invaluable, and they have a lot of Kangxi pieces. A lot of good Kangxi pieces. They have this one, which is a very, very nice Kangxi jar. It's got some aspects and elements to it that are sort of reminiscent of the transitional period, of course, but it's beautifully done. Beautifully done jar. Appears to be in good shape. Of course, you always want to get condition reports and so forth, but there it is. It's a completely legitimate looking jar with a very, very reasonable estimate of just 3,000 to 5,000 pounds, a 2,000 pound opening bid. It's 47 centimeters tall, so it's an 18-inch jar. It should bring 6,000 to 8,000, but it's estimated at just 6,000 to 8,000 pounds. It could bring more. It's only estimated at 3,000 to 5,000, which I think is very, very reasonable. All right, so do check that out. And then over here to this, they have a nice looking, it's either Kangxi or late transitional period plate. It's the rim has been ground on it a little bit, but it's one of those, those borderless figural scenes on a landscape. I love the tile floor and all this, the screen in the background. Again, moderately estimated at 2,000 to 3,000. It's a big plate. It's 13, just about almost 13 inches wide, 31 centimeters. It's technically a charger, I suppose, but it's sort of almost like a tile with a footed back. There's the back of it, but it looks fine. Looks absolutely fine. And the estimate is reasonable. Then you have this. You have another one of these very well-known types of Kangxi period jars with a wooded lid on it. This is a very common pattern. This is the vine and flower pattern. You see these fairly often. But it's a big jar. It's a big jar. It's 49 centimeters, so it's about 19 inches in height overall. And it's only got a 400 to 600 pound estimate. It's got one bidder watching it. I don't know why. Check this sale out. They don't seem to have a lot of watchers yet. I'm kind of surprised. 2 bidders here, 1 bid, but the sale just went up. They were a little late getting this up. This sale, you could make some buys here. All right, and this is a looking thing again. Condition reports, and this is a rare bird. This is one of these iron. This is an underglazed blue, one of these lotus bowls that they did in Woolley period, but it has underglazed red in it too. Underglazed red and blue, which of course makes a huge difference to the value. There's a fair bit of fritting to the rim, which you often see when you have underglazed red and underglazed blue, because they have to fire at these sort of oddball temperatures that can cause excessive fritting at times. But this one has underglazed blue, underglazed red, character mark here, and then a rain mark on the back, and it's got an articulated. It's interesting. The back of it is articulated with lotus leaves underneath, and then more characters here. This is a very interesting piece of porcelain. It's a nice looking bowl. The fritting doesn't bother me particularly. It's pretty good size. It's about 9 inches in diameter or something. Typically that's the size. Yeah, 21 centimeters, 9 inches. That's sort of the average size. Over the years I've owned a bunch of these. They're very nice. They're interesting. But this one has underglazed red. I've only had one with underglazed red in it. Any rate, it's estimated at 5,000 to 7,000 pounds, 4,000 pound opening bid. I think it's worth it. The last one I had a number of years ago, it was probably 15 years ago, I had one not too dissimilar from this, without underglazed red. I think we sold it for about $6,000 to somebody. So the price certainly, the estimate certainly seems in range. And then hopping along over to here, a very nice yen vase. Kangxi period, 45 centimeters, 18 inches tall. The colors are nice on it. It's got a nice wide splayed foot on the bottom. I don't see anything wrong with it. Good color. Very nice quality. Here's the bottom, nicely finished, good looking foot. Very good all the way around. And the estimate seems very, very reasonable. Again, 2,000 to 3,000, 18 inches. Again, check the condition on it. I have no idea why. It may just be the consignor just wants to sell it. Don't know. But it looks absolutely fine to me. And then over here to this Canton enamel English style kettle on stand. This is Beijing enamel. It's 18th century. This is a very nice one. We've seen these over the years at different auction houses in England in particular, and they always seem to sell in this form with the heater. Still has its heater. The enamels look to be in good condition. The colors are in good shape. I don't see any cracks or damage or repairs anywhere on it. Again, get a condition report if you're going to go after it. It measures about 13 inches at 13 and a half inches in height, so it's a good size piece. It's estimated at 2,000 to 3,000, which is spot on. We've seen these before, and they always seem to sell for somewhere between $2,200 and $3,600 US. So 2,000 to 3,000 pounds is right in there. It's certainly worth $1,600 pound starting bid and so forth. All right. And this is at Plakas. They've got some good things. And then these are striking. If you want something really elegant, these are really elegant. These are 18th century circa 1775, 1780 export vases with relief work flower appliques on them. You notice the flowers are all applied. They're not painted in. They are added on in porcelain and then enameled. So it's all added decoration onto the body, which makes these much better than many that you see around where they just paint flowers onto the body itself. Here they've actually applied flowers and then painted them. It's very three-dimensional. It's very, very nice. And then it's got ormolu mounts. The mounts appear to be early 20th century. I don't care about the mounts that much. They look fine. They look good on it. They dress it up nicely. And there's a mount here around the top and so forth. But these are big. This is the thing that makes these interesting, is that these are very nice size and they look to be in good condition. You want to get the condition report, of course, as I keep saying, but they're 54 centimeters in height. So these are roughly 20 inches tall. These are not the 9 and 10 inch and 12 inch ones. These are big, big ones. And in the past, when we've seen these, pairs like this sell for 15 to 20,000, 10 to 15,000 minimum. These are just estimated at 4 to 6,000. These only have 3 bidders on them. All right. Go after these. If you can get these for under $10,000 and they're in good condition and they haven't been restored completely, they're an absolute bargain, because the last time I think we saw a slightly bigger pair, but not much bigger, maybe 20 inches. I think they brought 18,000 each. Something like that. It was a very, very strong price, and these are nice. These are these particular ones. I can't say this enough. The typical ones are all just the smooth body and then enamels painted onto them, and then the next step up from that is the stipple ground, where they apply the little what they call like chicken skin bumps all over it. And those are the next tier up of this style. But the very, 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 very best ones have the applied flowers and leaves, because that took a lot of work. That's not a matter of stamping in some stippling. This is a matter of creating and molding and basically making something to apply over the skin of the vase, so it makes them much more rare, much more valuable. These are wonderful, 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 and they're big. So do check those out. And then hopping along over to this is a really nice Kangxi period or late transitional Shunzhi period jar with lid. But the floral, the underglazed blue decoration on here is very strong, unusually strong, and it has its lid. But the pattern decoration on here is very, very nice. It does have a hairline in the body, as I recall. Yeah, right there. There's a hairline through the body. But if you like unusual forms, very unusual forms and types, this is a very unusual form. And just forget about the crack. Don't worry about it. Throw some soak it in hydrogen peroxide if a crack bothers you. It's 36 centimeters in height, or about 15 inches tall, but very, very nice. And it's got a sticker or something on the bottom. I'd like to see it, but it looks absolutely fine otherwise. There is some losses to it's got some fritting here on the, which makes me wonder if it isn't a late Shunzhi period, but it's got some fritting around the edges of the lid and so forth, which was a problem on the early Kangxi pieces, but do check that out. And then another Kangxi piece is this. This is his incense burner with the dragons on it. And this is more of a rustic type. This isn't a highly refined example, but it's a very well-known type, and it's very nicely done. These are stout and heavy. I've had a number of these over the years. Stout, heavy, strong. They've got a great feeling to them. They're very powerfully potted. When you pick them up, they have a real sense of heft to them. And they're very nicely done, typically. And there's the bottom of it here. This one's got some old, I don't know whose sticker that is on there. Is that Spinks or Chade or somebody? Yeah. But anyway, it looks absolutely fine. The estimate on it is very low, 2 to 3,000 pounds, 1,600 pound opening bid, just 4 watchers on it. Very, very nice piece. And then over to this. This is a good Jun glazed jar, probably Jin Dynasty. It's small. These are fairly small, 5-6 inches. But the glaze on this looks remarkably even, and this looks legitimate to me. This looks like a nice, legit piece without anything. It appears to have quite a refined finish. The finish on this is extremely appealing. Very, very smooth. The handles are nicely done. There's the bottom of it. To my eye from the photographs, it looks fine as a gin piece. And the estimate is 1,000 to 1,500 pounds with an 800 pound opening bid. It's 12 centimeters in height, which is about 5 inches tall. It's fairly small. It's about that big. But a nice, sweet example with good glaze. And it looks legit. You might want to talk to them a little bit about it to get more information, but awfully nice. And then over to this, another one of these sort of Yen style transitional period. They dated it as Kangxi. I don't agree with them at all on that. I think there's a transitional or Shunzhi jar. But the underglazed red on it is amazing. There is a lot of underglazed red that came out beautifully on it, and there's a lot of underglazed blue that came out beautifully. And I don't see any green spots in the copper red. It doesn't look as though any of it got underfired or overfired. And this one was sold by the Chait Gallery. It's got an old Chait label on it. It looks like something they would have had. But the decoration on it is wonderful. But I think it's earlier than they think it is. Personally, this is just my view of it. There's the bottom of it. It looks very, very transitional to Shunzhi to me. Chait Gallery. It's got a crack in the bottom. Who cares? It's a it's a very, very, very fine underglazed red and underglazed blue example with a very modest estimate. 1,500 pounds. It's 40 centimeters tall, or about 18 inches in height, 19 inches in height. Isn't it? Is that what that comes out to? Yeah, about 18 and 19 inches in height. 800 pound opening bid. This should bring $5,000 to $7,000 at least. It's a very, very, very good example and got a very, very low estimate. All right, so check that sale out. That's the Plakas sale. It'll be on the global pages. You can get through it either through the global membership accounts or through Patreon. Your Patreon account will get you there too, as you all know. You go to Patreon, go to the collections page, and then it leads you over from there. Anyway, so there we go. Now, other stuff that's going on before I run out of steam here, because the medicine is making me a little sleepy, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. I'm trying to stay awake. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, the Brunk sale took place this week. They had a very nice sale. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. They had a lot of good armorial wares, very rare forms, very rare types. And overall, the sale did really well. They did it in 2 parts. I got skunked out a few pieces. I gave it the old college try, but with everything that was going on, I guess maybe I wasn't paying that close attention. I missed a few things, but that's me. Anyway, but the sale results were good. Now, some of these armorial plates had repairs to them, as you all know. When it comes to rare forms and types, if you're really a collector, you go for the type first, and the form first, and the quality first, and worry about the condition last. Never worry about condition first. Never. Otherwise, you end up with a really perfect collection of mediocre stuff. Always look for the rarities. Always look for the unusual pieces. Always look for the piece that goes, that's history. That's got some good stuff in it. And they had a lot of it in this sale. And I think people got some terrific buys for themselves. Now, one of them was this, of course, the famous, the Jewish lady, as she was known. These were late Yongshen, early Qialong examples that were produced for the export market. Extremely rare. These were fairly big. This one was 17 inches tall. It was estimated at $10,000 to $20,000. A beautiful example. Very, very lovely example. The enamels were in good condition. I didn't see any damage to it anywhere. It may have had a repair. I don't know. I didn't notice it. I didn't see anything of any they mentioned it in the condition report. Anomalies, pinholes, restoration and retouch on the neck, probably on the back somewhere. Minor restorations, basically, under black light. It sold for $20,000 plus premium, so about $25,500, $26,000, worth every penny of it. As I said when we did the preview before, we had seen these sell for more. That was a nice example, very, very good example. And think about it, sort of bookmark this in your brain, and we'll see going ahead when the next one comes up. And I'm going to bet it's 5 years. All right, maybe not. Maybe not. Somebody will sell something at sell off a collection somewhere. But anyway, but I think it's a 5 to 10 year deal between those, unless you want to go to a very good dealer and just pay $50,000 to $80,000 for one. Anyway, which is no harm in that. Those places, you need those dealers. That's how they keep the business going. And then you had this, the Woolley bowl, crack type bowl. I like this. We talked about it. It was 14 inches in diameter, beautifully done. I love the warpage. These always have such warps to them because they were hard to do and they sort of tipped in the kilns. And it was very nice. And this one sold for $1,600 plus premium, or around $2,100, $2,200, which is right in the ballpark. That's right about the sweet spot where they sell. We've had them in the past. They sell for anywhere from $1,500, $1,400, maybe with a hairline or two or something, up to $2,400 plus premium somewhere else. Anyway, all right. And then there was this. This was a good buy. This is a form of jar done during the transitional period that you typically see in fairly small sizes, 6 to 8 inches, 6, 7 inches in size, little ones. This was a big one. It was 11 inches high, quite a bit bigger. And it sold for the same price as the little jars. And I think part of the problem was the visual perception of it. People don't recognize the difference between a 6-inch jar and an 11-inch jar. So I think whoever bought this got a good buy. Instead of paying $900 or so plus premium for a 6-inch jar, you paid $1,100 for one that's literally 3 times bigger in mass. For $1,100 plus premium. It looked to be in good shape. It's a very well-known pattern. It's almost what they refer to as a stock pattern, fruit line and flowers and vines, but very nicely done. And then the lid was okay. I don't think the lid was particularly well suited to it, to be perfectly honest. If I bought this, I would take the lid off of this and find a lid that fit inside rather than covering up the exterior decoration on the neck, but that's just my personal taste. But the lid itself is probably worth $200 or $300. You always have to take that into account. So you could buy this jar, get it, throw the lid on eBay and sell it, get $200 or $300 out of it. Now your cost basis in this is down to about $800. There you go. All right, and then this, another cornerless Pronkware dish, or Pronk Madame dish. And last week we saw a pair of them sell for about $1,700 plus premium. Perfectly fine, about $2,000. You buy a single, you're going to pay less. Pairs bring a premium. Pairs are generally worth 3 times the price of a single. And here you have it. This sold for $650 plus premium. So the ratios are sort of there, double, 2.5 to 3 times. And this was a nice one. I didn't see anything wrong with it. It had a spider crack on the bottom, which is fairly common with these, and it sold for $650. And that's $650 in a strong sale. All right, and then over to this. This was one of my favorite things in the auction. I really like this. This is a type of very common Shengqiao Swato-ware dish. And you've seen these before, and usually they're very crude. They're not particularly well done. They're sort of slapped together, and they were meant for the export market. And they're usually just they look like they've spent 10 years on a beach with glue on their backs, rolling around in the sand, because you get to the back of them and they're just completely gummed up with sand. This one is not. This one had a little bit of sand on it, killing here and there, but this was a really nice example. This was one of the nicest Zhengzhou plates I've seen in a while, because the decoration was clear. The decoration was good on it. It wasn't all blurred and screwed up looking. And if you look at this, you got the bird on the branch, the flowers. This was a really, really sweet example. And it was huge. It was 18 inches in diameter, and I didn't see any repairs on it. And somebody bought it, including buyer's premium, for under $1,000. This was an absolutely wonderful buy. So if one of you got it, bravo. This was a good piece. Really, really good piece. And I think these things are very interesting. They have different grades of these Zhengzhou plates. Some of them are really poor. Some of them are awful. Some of them, are so rough I'm kind of surprised to even let them out of the kilns. But then you had other examples that were very, very successful. This was a very, very successful one. And it was done beautifully. And it was purchased at the Olympia Antiques Fair for $1,300 20 years ago. So somebody got a wonderful buy on it. And the reason it was that price 20 years ago was because the quality was so good. The quality was wonderful on it. And then hopping along, this was a lot I lost out on. I left pretty good money on it. Didn't get them. That's life. But they were very nice. I talked about them last week because they're an assembled pair. They're not a true pair, though they look like it. If you look at it carefully, you'll notice that the lower border decorations are different. The upper border decorations around the garlic neck are different. The banding decoration above the shoulder is slightly different. But they read well together. And on a shelf, I thought they would have looked very, very nice. And they were 8.5 inches tall, and I actually had a spot behind me for them on the shelf there, but didn't get them. So what? We move on. I got some other things that came in this week I was very, very pleased with. If you use the Patreon thing and you haven't seen it, that Japanese scroll with the bird cages came this week. And I was absolutely thrilled to death with it. Absolutely thrilled. It was down at a Potomac sale, and it was the only one I've ever seen like it. It was a Japanese bird seller painting with a canopy and all different types of cages, Asian cages and so forth, with different birds. The colors are amazing. So if you're on the Patreon site, go over and check it out. It's really fun. I did a sort of a detailed look at it. I was happy as hell to get that. And then over to this nice Dutch export market plate. There were 2 like this in the auction. It was sort of interesting. They're very, very similar. They both sold for about the same amount of money. Here's the plate. This one had an old repair up here. Doesn't matter. It's an interesting plate, fine quality. Now, sometimes when you look at blacklight photos, incidentally, and you'll see little areas of flecks of white, and you wonder if it's a repair, often that's just because a little bit of glue or dust or oil from a fingertip was on there. So you have to call them and say, is that a repair, or is that just a dot? Because sometimes it picks up everything that was on the plate. It doesn't matter if it's a repair or not. Anything that's on the plate that wasn't there originally, black plates will pick it up, and sometimes you get false readings. Often you get false readings. The repair in the upper corner here, you recognize that this sort of inverted T area here with the hairline, and then across it, that's an indication of a hairline that ended up breaking out into 2 chips. It was put back, it was restored nicely, no harm, no foul. There you have it. There you see the back of it a little better. But over here, you see a couple of dots, and that may just be tape or something. And that will also show up in a black light. And this foot rim here has a white area, and that's something rubbed on something and made that mark. So you want to understand what black lights are telling you. Anyway, this sold for just $500 plus premium. This is a very rare plate. Very, very nice plate, circa about 1750, 1760. Very lovely, very, very, very fine quality underglazed blue decoration. Pay for the art, pay for the spectacular honeycomb pattern, and then this sort of fish egg pattern in here among the vines. Beautifully done. And then hopping along over to this was a great bargain. I don't know where everybody was, but this was a 13-inch slip-decorated Celadon white slip decoration. But if you bothered to flip the thing over, you saw something you do not see often on these. One, it's got a very nice border decoration around the bottom, but it had a robin's egg blue base. And I think that was absolutely spectacular. There it is. And I know some of you are sitting there, I've never seen that before. Well, you don't see it very often. It's a very, very rare thing to appear on the bottom of one of these. And it may have been originally, this is what they were going to do the vase in, and they changed their minds and decided to do it in Celadon with white slip. I don't know what happened. But this vase was a very unusual, if you're a collector who likes really unusual, interesting things from the 19th century, things you don't see very often, this was it. This was it. This was a very, very interesting thing, and it sold for just one bid of $100, or so. Well, started at 50, and then went to 100, and that was it. Absolute steal. 13 inches tall, looked to be in good condition. It was bought in China between 1916 and 1941. It was not made then. This vase was made around about 1850, 1860. That was a fantastic buy for someone. I hope one of you got it. And then hopping along over to this, I wanted to follow up with this. This was that Chinese Chippendale style cigarette. This is an English desk, but it was made during the sort of it's probably the second half of the 18th century, from what I'm seeing here, 1775 or so. They said 18th or 19th century. I don't think so. I think it's about 1770 desk. Beautiful wood selection, but this is Chinese Chippendale. This is a very, very fine Chinese Chippendale desk. It's got and it's got the Gothic included, sort of the Chinese arches, but with Gothic influence on the doors. This beautiful lattice pattern, a plinth up here to put a vase on or whatever you've got, or a statue or something. Very nicely done. This is all hand carved. Beautiful dental moldings around the edges, nicely reticulated, done thumb boards up the front. And then these rococo volutes on the ends of the scrolls. This is a very, very handsome piece of furniture, and you can imagine what it would cost you to make this desk today. If you sent this design to a cabinet maker today, and I said, I want you to make me this desk, it would come back at around the price of probably $30,000 or $40,000. This was an absolutely great crotch veneered match. Look at the matchbook veneering down here. Notice the patterning. This means they split the veneer, opened it like a book, so that each side of veneer matches. And then you have all this great interior work, all this Chinese Chippendale interior work right out of Thomas Chippendale's book. Beautiful, beautiful example. Hidden drawers here and here, center door here. These things usually pull out and you can hide documents in them. These desks are absolutely fabulous. And somebody bought this for $4,750 with the premium, around $6,000, double the high estimate, but it was still a great buy. This is a big desk. It's 106 inches tall, and it came out of this Whitley family. It's super, super, super desk. And they probably paid $15,000 or $20,000 for it if they bought it back in the 90s. But a great example. And I hope one of you took notice of this and maybe even bought it. I really, really do. It's a great piece of furniture. And then over to this, the Alex Cooper is taking sale today, Alex Cooper sale. And I'm sort of going to wrap it up here because I've got to go. But I'm having surgery next week. I should be around. The eBay pages are updated. There's some decent things on eBay this week, so do check it out on the newsletter page over at Bitamount. We did manage to find some interesting things. I'll update the page later on after I get done doing something, and of course you'll see this. And that's going to be it for today. I'm cutting it a little bit short. But I thank you all for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet here, please on YouTube, please do. And join us over on Patreon. So I noticed a bunch of you joined on Patreon this week. Thank you. It's good. It's good. And we've put quite a bit of content on there, as you know. And oh yeah, the Patreon page. Those of you that didn't notice it because it wasn't a video or anything, But some of you did. You thought it was fun. I've gotten some catalogs of Chinese fakes that are being made in Qingdacheng, and some of them are very convincing. And a company actually published a catalog on it. I managed to snag a few of them. I've uploaded the first one, and I've got another one that we'll be adding up probably tomorrow or tomorrow morning. Yeah, tomorrow morning I think it'll probably go up. It's a sheet that shows all these copies, and these are things that you see all the time. These are jars you see all the time. These are things that get submitted all the time through the Identification Assistant Program, and they want to know if they bought something that's real because they look good. They look good. And these are the jars. These are the pieces that are being bought from this very large Chinese porcelain company in Qingdacheng. They're selling a lot of them. They're selling a lot of them, and you're going to see a lot of familiar faces. So if you're collecting, especially 18th and 19th century blue and white wares, and you're learning about it, and you belong to Patreon, download these onto your phone and carry these two catalogs with you. They have hundreds of pictures of them, and they show all the most popular fakes. And you're going to see some stunning things in there. You'll see pieces you recognize right away as copies. They're obviously copies. But you're also going to see things that, wow, that's a little scary, especially in the area of plates and ginger jars and export wares and things like that. It's a little disconcerting, I'll put it that way. And this is not the best fakery company in Shenzhen. This is a fairly large commercial operation. There are other better fakers in China that make things that have passed through the three big auction houses and the four big auction houses, because Poly is now the third largest auction house in the world, ahead of Bonham's. Actually, Heritage is now ahead of Bonham's. I think the three. I read a list the other day. They had them the three big the biggest auction houses. Sotheby's and Christie's. They go back and they're vacillating, and they're both losing market share. So I don't know where they're going. Next is Poly Group, then is Heritage, then is Bonham's, and the first three I just mentioned have all had pieces from some of these fakers in Qingdacheng. Every one of them, including one of them had a cover lot that had to be withdrawn. They're getting there. They're getting there. So we got to be very, very careful. Step back, and that's why I sort of focus. Before I finish, I want to wrap up in a second, but that's why I'm starting to focus increasingly on other auction houses that are dealing with more direct sources rather than people bringing things in the way they do it, the large, like Woolley and Wallis, Drew Eats, these places. They go to the sources. They go to country houses. And I think increasingly we're going to find them to be much more reliable sources of authentic material than the big auction firms, because they're so desperate and they seem to be without a rudder at the moment. And unless they can find their heading and get back on a good course, not to overplay navigational terms here, I don't know what the hell's going to happen to them. But they've all got good handbag sales coming up, so you can go buy a purse. All right, have a great week. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a comment if you haven't, and we'll see you all next week after I come out of the other end of whatever it is they're going to do to the right side of my jaw. We'll see how it turns out. I'm a little worried. Not too bad, but a little worried. Okay, bye-bye.